Whenever I've been on a set, I have two questions asked of me. One is, are you sure you can lift that? And two is, I'm usually bending over to pick up a cable or something, and somebody will look at my tattoo and say, oh, what's your tattoo? Except they're standing behind me, and we haven't been having a conversation about my tattoo. So, yeah, my experience on set, there's always those two questions.
And how does it make you feel when people ask you that? Like, what runs through your mind?
Well, what those two questions have inspired in me is to change the dynamics of my own sets when I'm directing, and to really participate in projects where I believe in the director and I know that they're going to create an environment on set where like there's a concept of gender equality and when people are really respectful of each other.
How'd you tell us about your opinions of like the event tonight?
Well, we created this whole Women in Film Week to have the very conversation we had tonight, which is women are in the industry and they're kicking ass at what they do, and we have to acknowledge that, not only to celebrate the work that they do, but to actually create more space for more women to do the same. So tonight was really about showing all the students in this program that gender equality on set matters, and to hear from the alumni who are coming back and making connections, inspiring students to join their companies and internships or what have you, but also giving them real advice that they can use. And that's for male students and female students and transgender students, and it's for all of our students. But to really, inspire them and remind them of the importance of gender equality in film.
What's on the event tonight?
I thought it was a very good event. It was really interesting to hear the other perspectives from the other panelists, and some things I agree with, some things I disagree with, so it just shows you like how different everyone's experience can be with the same thing, being a woman in the field or a man in the field. It can be completely different for so many different people. So,
do you have any like other personal stories that you didn't get to tell in the panel or anything like that you'd like to share?
Sure. I actually tell this one a lot to people. That it's kind of funny. I was running camera at a Redskins dinner. It was like a end of the year Redskins banquet or something. And like I don't watch football and I'm not like a big football fan, so I'm running the camera in the back of the room and like it's all full with people, and at one point this guy comes up to me and he like looks at me like this and he's like, "You're the most attractive videographer I've ever seen." And I was like, oh my god, okay, thanks. I didn't know what to say. It was so odd, And then he walked away, and one of my friends that was working with me walked up to me and he's like, "What did Chris Cooley just say to you?" And I was like, that was Chris Cooley? Like, apparently a very famous football player, I've heard his name before, but I didn't know him. But I just thought that was really funny. Like, it's a stereotype, you expect this, like, older guy standing behind the camera with like a belly or whatever, whatever the stereotype might be. So, but it was me. So I broke a stereotype that day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but
it's like if that
funny.
guy has that stereotype, then like who knows what kind of like. I mean, it's a possibility too that the people that are hiring people might also carry that stereotype, or But it might like work in your advantage, or it might not. So like some of them like kind of like what Giovanna said, like we want a female grip just so we can see it, or they could just be like, I don't think she can do it.
Right.
But
sadly,
awesome.
Sometimes it's like that. I mean, I work in an office with all men except for one other woman, and I'm the second youngest in the office. And I've always been the youngest. I've been there for 3 years, but you have to constantly prove yourself.
seats.
Yeah, I think it's great. And it did seem like people actually were engaged and happy to have a discussion about stuff, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. What does this whole event mean to you? Because you seem to have a very different opinion than a lot of the other people, which I think is a very interesting and impactful way of looking at the whole situation.
I think it's, so I heard there was a Women in Film event, and honestly, my first reaction is, oh, WIF, the Women in Film and Video organization, and I was like, oh, that's cool that they're teaming up with George Mason to do something. And honestly, when I said yes to Lant, it took me a minute to realize that it wasn't just another WIF event that I was agreeing to, and that it was actually a thing where I was supposed to discuss being a woman in our industry, and I really did have to think long and hard about, does it even matter? And every now and again, I hear stories like Kwanzaa, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I guess it actually, people have issues like that. But I really just never did. So it's cool when there are women in film. I feel like rah, go women. But at the same time, I just don't care if people are boys. I don't care if people are girls. I've never once really gone out of my way to work with either gender on anything. And I guess probably people have discriminated against me in some ways. I guess I could pull examples out of my ass about situations where producers, I remember this one situation when I was an intern and I worked for Creative Differences, a company in Georgetown. We made shows for Travel Channel and Discovery, and our LA producers, whenever the LA male producers would come out here, they would send me and this other female intern out to go to bar and go get dinner and just hang out, show them cool DC spots. Mm-hmm. And it's in hindsight, I could go back and look on that and be like, oh, we're two women, so of course we're sent out with the male LA producers. But at the time, and really still honestly now, I'm they just said, go hang out with these people in DC. And it's because I didn't care that it was two women clearly being told to go hang out with two guys. It didn't faze me as a woman discrimination thing. So then it's just not a woman discrimination thing. So, I don't know. That's how I kind of feel about a lot of that stuff. If you don't let it affect you, then it's really just not an issue.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of people dwell on it if you just look at it from
just get over it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I got to go out and meet LA producers when I was 20.
It's kind of what G. Bonner said, where she's
I
got hired because I'm a woman. I'm just going to embrace that.
I know. It's I don't know. I feel like people talk about it all the time, and I hate the idea that people do discuss it at my office. We have 70 people, and a lot of them are women. And people will come in and be like, oh, you guys always hire women, you always hire women. But I've seen it. I've seen 6 months go by where we've only hired men. And I've seen 6 months go by where we hire 50-50. And I've seen 6 months go by where we only hire women. Because they don't give a shit. They actually just don't care. Mm-hmm. If there are more qualified women, they're going to have 70% women. If there are more qualified men, they're going to have 70% men. If all the women have babies at the same time, they're going to let us all go on maternity leave and all come back to the office and all deal with being moms. They don't care. They actually just don't. So it's very hard for me to really get and imagine a situation where someone is saying you have a vagina so you probably can't operate a camera. That's crazy. But Antonia says that she has a different example. I do sometimes had the older guys say, oh, you don't really know what you're doing, honey, I'll do that for you. And I'm just man, fuck you, pick up that 150-pound case, I'm lazy. And they do, and then it's just a non-issue. So I don't.
Yeah.
I do. I feel like people just dwell on it and they really don't have to. Mm-hmm. It's just a choice.
Maybe this whole event is us dwelling on it, which I've brought in the question a lot. I'm well, are we just propelling we're propelling it by saying oh, we're different, so let's have this whole event because we're different.
I don't actually feel that way. I feel like we're letting our position known, look, women can do this, we are doing it, mm-hmm. and we're kicking ass doing it, and whether or not, it's just a matter, how you're saying, a matter of accepting it or not. Either way, you're still going to be doing what you're going to be doing. And
I think Lant really gave the best example to me for that one, because I don't really give a crap about gender, but when she said, well, I liked having a woman role model, and it is true that everybody just sees it different. We just do. Mm-hmm. I naturally gravitate towards male mentors, and I have no idea why. Probably the exact same stereotypes that make Lant gravitate towards a female role model for herself. So I have not noticed it where she did. So it's nice to have events like this in the situation that maybe there's a freshman in the audience who legitimately doesn't think that she can produce stuff or that she's going to face all these challenges, and then she hears one chick who just says, no, it didn't ever matter, even not even once, and it just gives her a little more confidence. Mm-hmm. So I guess in the role model situation, it kind of can have an impact, and it is nice just to have events just for the sake of events. like, you know, get everybody together. Everybody says hi. Everybody gives each other a couple opinions and words of advice, and then we all shake hands and go home. Like, you can just make up a reason, and we end up talking about the same stuff regardless. People are asking, like, what's it like to be on set as a location manager, and all these other questions that aren't related to male or female.
Yeah.
Just have an event, get people together, and we learn.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay, well, thanks so much.
Thank
Becky.
you.
What were your thoughts on the event?
It was great. It's nice to hear everybody's different experiences, and like Dr. Lant said, it's sports, documentary, features, and you're hearing similar experiences, but also different things too. And I think that it was helpful for the students. So
cool.
That was good.
Are there any like other personal stories that you didn't get to share? Or, any other thoughts that you just like to reiterate?
Not in terms of like being a woman. It's like I said in the panel, when you're young, it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl, like you're just struggling to try to make your voice, and you have to be fearless, and you have to be willing to like say no to people. Saying no can be like the hardest thing that you do, but you just have to constantly like want to get better and love what you do and just keep going after it, and then learning to sort of set your parameters and say yes or no to things like becomes a lot easier to do.
Okay. I think that's good. Do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. I am curious as to how you're able to balance having a kid and
I don't have a kid yet. I don't have a kid yet.
You said you wanted it.
But I want to get, honestly, like, I don't really know how it's going to happen.
I feel like you could do it. It's just, it will be hard. I mean, like, I'm not going to admit that it's not hard, but at the same time, I feel like everyone can be able to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really fortunate. My husband is amazing. He's an IT guy he works for a government contract, and he gets Fridays off, so, like, that's really helpful. Hopefully that will still be the case in, like, 4 or 5 years. But, no, I mean, I think just trying your best and like having people around to help you, like having friends, having family, and surrounding yourself with people who have been in the same situation and who are presently going through the same thing really helps. And like I said in there, one of my mentors is Lynette Howell, and she just had a baby like last year. And so when I met her, one of the first things I said was like, how are you producing all these movies, and how is it having a baby? And she said she's partnered with a guy that also has kids. So it's putting yourself, it's not just putting you as you, it's surrounding yourself, I think, with people who can help you. So yeah, that's how I plan to do it.
We will take your advice. Tell me about how you felt about the event tonight and what your thoughts were.
Oh, I love being here. It's great to hear all these fantastic young women talking about their experiences, and I felt so close to them and almost like a mother. I could be their mother, so no, it's great to have women coming up, experienced women, smart women, engaged, unbelievable, just lovely. I loved it.
Yeah, giving us an example of we can be something more than what we think we can be. Because it's hard when like there's not a lot of people you can look up to, not a lot of directors, everyone at the Oscars besides actresses are all men who win awards and stuff. Besides Catherine Bigelow. Yeah. But she's kind of been the like, catalyst for all this talk about women, lack of women.
I was actually told personally like that I shouldn't continue film anymore. I was during going over colleges, and I was debating on whether or not to go to VCU. Mason is obviously my first choice, and I love Mason. But like I looked at VCU, and I went and I talked to the lady, and the program was cool. She showed me the studio, and it was all pretty cool. And like the seniors like got off from like assignments I guess that would be due for the class to do like their big huge senior project. I'm like, oh, senior project, yeah. and we were all sitting around, and someone asked the question like, hey, is my son or daughter, it was like a mix, there were a couple girls but mostly guys, and they're like, hey, do you think that my son or daughter, I forget which, and I was like, are actually gonna like make a lot of money in this? And she's like, I think you wouldn't do anything more than freelance. I feel like if you want it, because I told her I wanted to do more feature-length films and movies, because that's something I'm really passionate about. Nothing wrong with freelancing, just something that I'm kind of striving for. And she's like, yeah, you probably wouldn't do anything more. I mean, unless you go to LA or New York, you probably would only freelance, and even then you probably wouldn't make that much money. And I'm just like,
If you want to make a feature-length film, first of all, you have to try for years and years. So you have to be willing to outlay the time and keep your passion all those years. But you also have to pay the rent. So you have to find some way to do those two things together. And there is no one way to do it. So you just have to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And a good way to do that at the beginning is to make narratives and make a lot of them. And write them and make them and write them and make them and write them and make them, so you can prove that you can make a video that works with a story, beginning, middle, and end, with characters. That's it. That's all you need to be able to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
About the event in general, or your thoughts about what happened and the discussion.
I thought it was great. I think everyone had a different perspective to share, and I really love the fact that, Cindy thought of, having someone, who was in the industry for a long time, having someone like me who just started in the industry, and it was really great, I think, to give those different perspectives. And
Are there any other thoughts or stories you have that you were about to share? I know that you were going to say something, but
right. I think just what I was going to say was that I think a lot of I think someone was mentioning that the fact that you're a woman in film in the industry shouldn't be something that you think about all the time, how you should just kind of not really think about gender, not make that a part of it. And to a certain extent I do agree with that, but then to another extent I feel as though you can't just be oblivious to it and ignore it, because it is real. It is an actual fact. It is a fact that women are underrepresented in the industry. And so rather than just being blind to it and just accepting it, even if it doesn't affect you directly, I think, down the line, it's going to affect your children, or it's going to affect, other women who are trying to, have a bigger impact in the industry. So I think, we're not going to change the world in a day.
It's almost like some people would agree it's misrepresentation, not just underrepresentation.
Yes, exactly. And, there are things that you can do to change it. Every little bit, counts. And whether that just be, writing a script about a strong female character, or, having a crew of all women, even small things like that, it can make a difference. And I think it's important to still be aware of it. Don't, just walk around like you have a chip on your shoulder and think, oh, because, I'm a woman, I'm not going to get anywhere, or, I hate men. No, that's not what it's about, But, yeah.
Cool. Thanks, girl.
Yeah.